All right, so I've been making these videos, but not all of them are turning out. I'm gonna try it again. I'm just gonna keep doing my best. So, thought I'd share with you a few things to kind of help you, remind you of what's going on. Get straightened out a little bit. The first thing you want to do is you want to tone your paper, okay? Because, so I'm drawing these spheres, right? The sphere, the cone, different forms. And if you can see, if you look at the sphere, okay, and then you look at just the atmosphere around it, and think to yourself, what is the lightest value and what is the darkest value? You can kind of get a general idea that it's much darker around the objects. So I'm going to put the object on the table. I'm going to show you real quick, basically, what I'm trying to do. And then we'll pull back into the screen so I can get it to just sit. Okay. It's weird. Okay. All right. I guess it wants to sit on the edge, but I don't think that's going to be very good. I want it to sit kind of now, can you see it? So I think I'm just gonna draw it as is right there. I think the table tilts a little bit so that that sphere is always falling off, and I need to prop it up, but I don't feel like doing it right now. I just want to try and get this in order. So what I'm going to do is I am going to basically just draw so I get the camera to adjust. I'm going to be drawing, sorry, I'm going to be drawing, oh, I know it, I'll turn my easel. Oops, I'll turn my easel. A bit better for you guys. There. You can still see, I think that's a nice close-up. I want you to realize a few things, okay? One of those things is that when we're drawing with values, because remember we're going to try and create, we want to create the illusion of the objects being three-dimensional, even though the drawings, they were drawing on a two-dimensional space. Because of that, there are just some things that you have to do. You can no longer use line as kind of your, we tend to use line as a way to guide the eye, right? But the problem with that for this type of drawing is that those lines will flatten the space. Eventually you're going to do whatever you want. But you know, for this type of drawing that I'm trying to show you, I want you to, you have to let go of your line. So it's almost like you, this is like the drawing with line has been the way that we draw, right? It's how we communicate. But for this particular type of drawing, which is to create this illusion of something being three-dimensional, you can't do that. Because the line, what happens with drawing with lines is lines will flatten the space, your spaces. And so you don't want that. And remember, when we draw, there's another thing that happens. Because that black, it's the black line. And nothing has lines around them. In reality, things don't have lines, okay? We put those lines on there because it's kind of guide. It's a guide for our eye. So I'm going to try to teach you how to draw without depending on so much line. And there'll be some line because it's still a drawing, but you know. So the first thing I want to do is I just showed you that the spheres or these forms are in a space that lights are off, and I do use a light to shine on the object so that I can get that reflected space, but the value, there's a value around it. So the first thing you want to do is you're going to, remember I told you this, I want you to darken the space. So you're going to just tone your paper. And that tone is going to represent, the atmosphere, but you're actually you can even darken it more. Just all depends on what you see, right? Let me fix this a little bit. It's kind of weird. All right, so you just kind of put some lines on it, and then you soften it. Fortunately, mine must be my, oops. So let's do this really quick. So I've been making all these videos. I countless, but for some reason I don't know how to, this is my weakness, that I don't know how to make videos, not really. So it's all experimental, but it doesn't matter. I'm thinking that this particular charcoal I'm using might be, it's not the vine. So it's not seeming to blend the same. So I'm gonna try my chamois. See what happens when I use my chamois. Yeah, I don't know why, but the chamois, it must have more of the compressed. Remember I told you don't use compressed? And it must be more of a compressed, because if the chamois can, for some reason, blend compressed, but it does not, it just wipes out the vine charcoal. You'll figure all these things out, you know, as you go along and you start learning to draw more and more, you'll figure out, you know, what works best for you. What do you want? But now you're just a student, and not just, a student is like special. Student's a special space. So I'm looking at my objects, and I showed you them a bit ago. I wish I knew how to do things where I could just take a picture and you could have a dual place where you could see the picture of it at the same time, because I would have to pull back for you to see these forms and what I'm drawing, or else I would have more space, and I just don't have the space to show you everything. So it's just gonna have to be, you're gonna have to watch me for a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna draw it. And normally when you start drawing, you know, one of the things that you want to do is you're looking at the sizes of everything and the spaces between it, if there is space, if there's not, you know, what's moving forward, what's the biggest, what's the smallest, and you start comparing things, right? So, and you have to pick, normally you pick one thing that is the base size for everything, and then everything will be based off of that. So I'm going to, if you remember, the cone was on the left-hand side. I don't know if you saw that or not, but I don't even know what, if it flips it or what, but that's what I'm going to begin with my drawing. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw that cone. And one of the things that I want to think about with the cone, okay, and you're kind of going to think, well, how big is the space going to be? So I'm going to put my top right here, right? And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just draw that center straight up and down of my cone, okay? And what that is the place, the core, right? It's almost the core. And then I'm going to draw the cone. Well, we know the cone is the shape of a triangle, because so you can actually, you could start with a triangle. You don't want to draw very heavily. You just kind of look at it. Can you see it? I think you can see it. So there's the triangle, which is the basic shape, right? Shapes are two-dimensional, forms are three-dimensional. So I want to create the illusion of a three-dimensional space. So I'm going to start to curve it. If you look at if you've purchased your forms, one of the things that you've seen is that the cone is round, right? So you're going to, now right now I am drawing line because I'm just lightly drawing it. I need to have the idea of what I'm doing on my page. So just going to kind of get it in, and it's these the particular styrofoam cone that I have is it's not pointed. It's not a pointed apex. It's a rounded apex. It's round at the top. Okay. So just going to kind of do that. Kind of work with it. It does still look long. Okay. So maybe I'll pull it down to there. Okay. So if that is my form, then one of the things that I need to realize is that everything will be based off of that. So when I look at the sphere, I really wish I could show you everything in one shot. I look at the sphere, I can see, it seems to me that this cone comes forward a little bit, and then the base of the sphere comes back. It seems to come back, but then kind of tips. And then it actually comes behind the sphere. There's a piece of it, and it looks like it's about, I have to get out my sight measuring stick. I'll do another video later this afternoon, but this one, it looks like it's about a little more than half. So it's probably about here, I think, the top. So let me draw it. And I don't know if you noticed this, but I'm drawing, you move pretty fast, but I'm not drawing heavy, okay? And I might go up a little bit. So, and if it helps, just draw a circle. Oops. And that's the great thing of using the vine, because the vine is very light. It almost glides, it sits on top of the newsprint, right? Almost sits on top of it. I mean, it can still make some kind of it makes marks on the paper, and it can make marks to the point where you can't get it off, but at the same time, it's pretty forgiving. And right now, so I'm just kind of setting it up, right? And I want that feeling, and if I just look, you can see that, if you looked at it, you could see that the sphere is, we finish, we'll go back and forth with your eye, and you can kind of look at it. So I kind of just want to, and if it's not perfect, it's okay, because what's going to happen is, what will happen is we will adjust it as we're drawing. Okay, so then if I look at the other thing, another thing, you don't want to you want to set your still life up so that it's, and I really need to do this, but I'm gonna have to rearrange this little space I'm drawing in. But you want to arrange it so where that it's sitting in front of you, and you don't have to look, you don't have to dart your eyes from paper to object. You actually want to see the object and be drawing simultaneously at the same time. So I think maybe later tonight, that's what I'm going to have to do, is I'm going to have to set it up to where that you can see both the paper and both the drawing. But let's just do this for now, because I told you I would be giving you videos, and I have been making them, and I'm so sorry, but they're just I'm not good at this stuff, so I'm just learning. Okay, so here's that, and then the next thing I want to know is, so if I were to sight measure it, I could kind of say it's this, let's see, so this is this big, so about, about halfway is how far up, and it looks like the edge of the cone does come up. So it does come further up because you can actually see, like you can see that, so here's this line here. Okay. So this is going to be the edge of the cube. Trying to be careful. And the corner of the sphere is probably going to widen a little bit because it does slightly cross over, okay? And this cube is a 2-point perspective, so it has 2 vanishing points. So I need to figure out where does it, how far up does it go? And it looks to me, like if I were to measure, so if we go, so this is the bottom of this, okay? We can erase it, don't worry. So there's the bottom of the cone, and it looks to me when I see it, does it line up? Kind of does, actually. It does kind of line up. It lines up with that bottom, even though it's turning at an angle. And you can see, so I need to figure this out, okay. So it's about halfway, so about right here. But it's going to have to curve at an angle, and the angle will hit about here. Okay. So if my vanishing point, let's say my vanishing point is right here. Right. So let's say my vanishing, can you see that? Whoops, it's going up above your eye. So I have, this is a 2-point perspective. So this, if this one goes to this vanishing point, then wherever the top is going to go to the vanishing point. So I have to figure out where the top is. And if I look next door to the sphere, the top of the cone is about here, okay? So that means it's got to be about this tall, right? About there? Kind of measure, okay. So then that means that that also, and I would recommend not freestyling it the way that I'm doing, but actually having a ruler, you know, one of your yardstick rulers that you were supposed to get for this class. And I have a ton of them because I usually bring them to class with me, but I'm too lazy to get it today. So then next I need to figure out where is the other vanishing point. It looks like it actually will flow. It seems to fall away off of the, it's gonna go off of my page actually. I really hate when that happens. I can tell you that I didn't really plan how I was going to draw. I just like, okay, wherever it goes. So someplace here maybe even. All right, and then I have to figure out, well, how deep do I go? And for today, I'm just kind of guessing. I know that tonight I will probably, whatever I'm not saying that I'm going to do, tonight I will go get my sight measuring stick and my ruler, and I'll have everything a little bit nicer for you. Okay, so then that's the top. And remember, that one's going to head out that way to the VP. All these lines, 1, 2, 3, will head to the vanishing point going that direction, right? Wherever that one meets. And they recede. Remember, they recede. So it looks like that way. And then this one, and then the top will also, so the top is going that way, okay? Something like that. Can you see that? Okay, so that's using a 2-point perspective vanishing point, which and I don't think it's completely right. I feel like could be better, but you know, it's good enough for now. All right. I'm thinking it's this vanishing point that's messed up because it's off the page and I don't feel like figuring it out. But I do want you to kind of get an idea, okay? All right, so we have this guy here. Sometimes you can kind of go over your lines. It's up to you, but you know, you don't want to go real dark anyway, so you want to just kind of soften. You go in and soften everything if you want, you know, like I think the chamois works better, like we said. So we can take the chamois. This one, if you're using vine, chamois is not going to work as well. It'll just suck everything out. Okay, so now I need to start working on looking at how the value's hitting it, okay? The darks and the lights, basically. One thing I want to say is I want this sphere, it's going to go in front, so behind, okay? All right, I don't know if you can see that or not. Let's see if I can, maybe like that. It's weird how it flips it because this is actually on the other side. So strange. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to look at the atmosphere and I'm going to look at the values. I'm going to use my kneaded eraser. This one's getting old. I have some other ones. I need to pull them out. But I like it still. It's weirdly sticky though. Okay. I don't know if it's optical, but my sphere looks weird there. Another thing, before you start drawing, and one thing you want to do is you want to look at everything. Is it close to the way that you like it? I mean, is there anything off? And I can see that I don't like this top, but I don't know. I don't feel like messing with it. I look at it, it seems to me maybe it should be deeper. Maybe. Interesting. Okay. All right, we're going to stop though. I want to show you something, then I have to get ready for my next class. But so one thing is I can see the way that the light is hitting it is that light's hitting it from this side. So you can draw with your eraser. This is the cool thing about this technique, right? And I don't want anyone using, not yet, I don't want you using charcoal chalk, the white charcoal chalk, not yet. Later on, you can start using it, but for this purpose now, I want you just to soften it. And I don't want any line value around it. I want, if I look at the form, I can see that this light, the light's hitting this side. And then what's defining it is this value behind it, okay? All right, then let's see. And it starts to soften around the space of it. And I'm gonna see if my chamois can help me to lighten it. It does. So when you use if you were used a more compressed, the chamois is gonna help you. I mean, I use my chamois all the time. Obviously, look how black it is. It wasn't that color when I first purchased it. It's just become black. Just gonna soften everything. All right, so I'm gonna look at my values again and try and see if there's any darker values, because we're not going to draw with line, remember? Another thing is sometimes if you want a nice, crisp, and I'll get a piece of paper to show you this line. You can use a piece of paper as kind of a mask kind of deal. So if I want to, I can take this piece of paper and kind of mask the side. Let me see how far it goes back. So right there, oops, it goes to there, and it goes to there. The one thing about the vine really, it's not very, it just kind of sits on the surface. So you can lose, it's just frustrating to students, I think, sometimes, but you can really lose some of the values, you know, or some nice work that you did. You have to be careful not to rub against it, spray your work when you're done. So anyways, you can kind of use that actually to help you. All right, and I'm looking at it and I feel like the side edge really needs to be kind of, the side edge is representing the darkness. And it's coming down. Comes down to the very okay. All right. Now, the blackest black is a lot of time. Remember the blackest black on the little value strip that you made? It's a lot of times underneath. And what that black will do, it almost weights it in space, to weight your form in a space. I'm going to look at the shadow. I'm just going to kind of very quickly. I feel like I'm a little closer than I should be, or maybe I don't know, like my sphere, maybe that is not completely accurate in my sphere. So I'm going to kind of erase that bottom and try and redraw it. It's like it kind of curves. It's weighted down here, comes up here. And then I'm going to increase the base of my not too much, but just a little bit. I don't usually use a piece of paper, but I always knew you could because you can get really those sharper edges. Okay. All right. Still need some work, so we'll just keep working on it. All right. I'm going to put that right there, and then I'm going to keep. So one of the things is that the shadow seems to be going right back here and off of the cube, off of the cone. It's hard to draw. For me, it's hard to draw and speak at the same time. There's other stuff going on here, but I just want to kind of get that in there, okay? All right. So one thing I notice, I don't have my glasses on, so I'm having to squint, but I see that the light is somehow hitting right back here. It's really bright. And it falls even under. Okay. There's a lot of details that you start to look at. When you start drawing. Okay. All right, so let me go back to the cone, because I see that there's this thing, when light, okay, so when light hits, it does different things. I think I showed you something, I don't know if I erased it before, but on a couple weeks ago, I showed you how light works. So it can hit an object, right? It can be absorbed by an object. It can reflect off of an object. It can reflect the color, or, a white light, I guess, it can reflect different things off and onto other things or onto the wall. And these lamps that we're using are really important, Is this a cool lamp? The lighting, is it cool or is it warm? And there's just different things that you have to think about. And I can't really see very good, but there's something happening up here. Okay. All right. And I can see that light is actually really popping back here someplace. So I want to talk about that in my drawing. I don't know, this might be boring. Okay. So, let's see. I'm going to have to fix the curve. Bring it back to where it was actually. Comes down. See, I feel like it sits beneath it, so I've got to get this really kind of reflective shadow is falling beneath. It's a little bit of a deeper shadow than even this shadow, and you can kind of see it. All right, we'll just leave that there for now. I just wanted to weight it down a little bit, just kind of, if your sphere isn't the way that you like it, you just kind of blend it in. Okay, so now then, and it's curved, so a lot of times you want to kind of create your, you are directing someone's mind. And if you go like this straight across, it's not going to communicate, oh, that this is curved, right? Because you can't use words. Words are symbols, and you can't use those symbols. You have to remote to these marks that you make on the page as your symbols. You start drawing and you start creating art, and you're not always going to be there for, anyone to see, right? They're going to have to understand what you're trying to say without you being there. So there we go. And then I see that there's some, in the curve here, it's curving away. I believe it's curving away from that, that light. Okay. There's a shadow coming off of this onto this. That's saying that. All right. It's really kind of a darker shadow right there. It's very defined. It's always interesting to me. Okay. And then you're going to use your eraser, and I'm probably predominantly using this, the kneaded, and just creating like these little points. Okay. All right. So another thing that's going on is that this atmosphere is, it's darker than the sphere. So I'm going to communicate that. I'm correcting my form as I go along. Look at my form because I think it's getting kind of wonky. We need to work with it a little bit. I think it's because this point is very light. This value. Okay. And it seems like light is somehow. And then you go back and forth with your darks and your lights. Maybe, maybe it needs to be fixed a little bit. And you just have to figure that out. Like I can tell that there's too much shadow happening here. Okay. Starting to come along, starting. I feel like the whole thing is a little bit lighter. Right, the next thing I want to look at is I'm going to look at going to look at this space, this cone. So this sphere is in front of the cone. It's casting a shadow, a long shadow right here. And look, it's very easy to see the planes of the cone. And what will happen when you see that, you can just see the defined thing, like light is actually, somehow the light is, I think it's a reflective light because I have the light turned to the wall, so then it's bouncing off and then it hits, and it's the objects are, the forms are blocking this light, okay? And it is a little tricky. So let's see if I can figure it out. Okay. All right, so, oops, darn it, there went my charcoal on the ground. I don't like that because I don't want to mess my carpet up. So one thing I can see is I can really see this line right here. Let's probably get into this. I want to get a nice crisp. Looking at it, and I can see that. For some reason, I can really see these edges. Mm-hmm. Show me that. I don't know if it's gonna. Get rid of any lines. All right. So I see that. See that it's darker. Behind, right? But at some point in time, there's the table. Table's going to place it in space. Okay. Now I also see that this, here's the shadow. It's right here. And somewhere here. And somewhere here. And it's creating this kind of weight in the forms. So when you think about those things, it's time that I know I have a lot more charcoal, but I don't know where it's at to look for it. I'll start to get my studio in order. I'm just weighting this. So we know there's like this, when the sphere, that's not the base of the sphere, is somewhere in the center. And then, so this is the part that's supposed to be protruding out. And I want to say that. Somewhere I'm trying to say that. Okay. All right. And then, I mean, like if you were to keep going, there's lots of things that this painting is talking about. See, there's this thing here. It's like you can see a piece of the table. It's in the background. And it's actually a little darker. It's a little darker right there. This really doesn't want, this one doesn't want to even go on. Let's soften it up. I think you start to see it, right? You start to see what I'm seeing. And that's what I'm asking you. I'm asking, can you see this? You see? Can I show you what I saw? Even what maybe I experienced when I saw this? All right, guys, that's it for now. I'm going to post this one, so hopefully you'll see it in just a little bit. Thank you so much. Let's see.